Even if you start saving money now, you will not become a millionaire. Even if you splurge now, you won't go bankrupt. But if you do this consistently, you will notice some significant changes. Personal finances account for nearly half of all New Year's resolutions. Only 16% of all New Year's resolutions are kept, implying that many promises we make to ourselves about money and other important topics are broken. That raises the question of why this is so difficult. Why do people keep making promises to themselves that they are unable to keep? And perhaps most importantly, is there a way to break free from this never-ending cycle of disappointment? The answer to these questions can be found in our habits. This is a top 5 takeaway summary of James Clear's Atomic Habits, and this is the Swedish Investor, bringing you the best financial freedom tips and tools through stock market investing and habits. Number 1 takeaway: marginal gains accumulation. The exceptions have been mentioned. The entrepreneur who made a fortune in his first year of business. The musician who won a competition and became an overnight success. The person who correctly predicted a string of numbers in the Powerball. These are stories of explosive wealth accumulation, and while they can be captivating at times, they aren't always reliable. Let me ask you a question. Do you know of anything you can and will do to improve your finances by 100% in a month? No, neither did I. Do you know of anything that could improve your financial situation by 1%? This is much easier. It could be as simple as getting a credit card with a nice cashback offer, transferring money from a cash account to an index fund, figuring out how to monetize your hobby, or simply canceling that subscription service that didn't add much to your life in the first place. The needle in the 1% haystack is the 100% improvement. Don't bother looking for it. Instead, take the haystack and go find another one. In Atomic Habits, James Clear asserts that there is no defining moment required to achieve success, whatever that means to you. Instead, you need a series of small victories that add up over time. You'll need a lot of those tiny 1% gains, which are much easier to spot and act on, and they'll add up over time. If you can improve your finances by just a single percentage point per month for the next 30 years, you'll see some truly remarkable results. $10,000 becomes $359,496.41, a 3,495% increase. This is referred to as the aggregation of marginal gains by James Clear. This is a very similar concept to what we call compound interest in finance. It also works the other way around. If you move 1% in the wrong direction for an extended period of time, you will find yourself in a bad situation. This makes one thing abundantly clear. It makes little difference where you are right now. What matters is your path. This is due to the fact that your current outcome is always a lagging indicator of your habits. When you allow a small change in your habits to compound, it will have a significant impact on your life. If the pilot changes the heading of the plane just 2.4 degrees north, it will land in Stockholm rather than Moscow. However, there is a catch. Anyone who has ever failed a New Year's resolution knows that motivation alone is insufficient. After all, everyone would probably succeed with these things. But the reality is that we are all extremely energy conservative. We are lazy, in other words. We'll look at a 4-step model that will increase your chances of success with any new type of habit soon. But first, let's talk about why most of your old New Year's resolutions were doomed from the start. Takeaway number 2. Systems trump goals. Set SMART goals according to conventional wisdom. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. If we follow this advice, your SMART New Year's resolution might look like this. By the end of this year, I will have $20,000 in my savings account. It appears to be a good idea, but James Clear explains that even SMART goals are actually dumb, especially when it comes to long-term success and the accumulation of marginal gains. This is why. Goals, by definition, are only temporary changes. $20,000 is a lot of money, but it's not enough for a spendthrift to squander. Goals are not particularly motivating. You've won the game once you've reached your goal. And then what? Warren Buffett likes to ask. Your happiness is limited by your goals. In a way, you're telling yourself that you won't be satisfied until X occurs. Happiness should not be reserved solely for your future self. Instead, we'd like to flip that goal on its head and ask, what allows me to have $20,000 in my savings account by the end of the year? Take note of the procedure or system that will lead you there. If nothing comes to mind, try to imagine a person. Imaginary or real, who could get there? What does this individual do on a daily basis? And perhaps more importantly, what does this person not do? This person most likely does not wait until the end of the month to see if there is any money left over to invest, but rather does so as soon as he receives his paycheck. He probably doesn't watch a lot of reality TV, but he does consume information that makes him wiser and benefits him in the long run. Furthermore, he does not invest aimlessly, picking up stocks of the latest fad that his coworkers recommend or that he learned about on Reddit. Instead, he invests with a plan and a goal in mind. Do you believe a person with these habits and this system can amass $20,000? Of course he does, and he doesn't even have to make it a goal. He'll get there eventually because he already knows how to play. The score takes care of itself, said Super Bowl winner Bill Walsh. A goal's purpose is to win the game, but a system's purpose is to keep you playing the game, to complete as many repetitions as possible. In the end, it is reps in a properly constructed system who drive success. So I think it's time to figure out how to keep playing. Takeaway number 3, the 4-step habit model. If you've ever wondered why you can't seem to stick to the habits that will help you become the person you want to be, the answer is one of these 4: cue, desire, response, and reward. We are biologically wired in such a way that when we are placed in a specific context, a cue, we want to feel something, craving, which causes us to act, response. And then we get what we wanted, reward. With each successful cycle in this loop, your habits become more internalized and easier to perform. The connection between cue and reward becomes more obvious, which can be both an advantage and a disadvantage depending on the value you place on a specific action. You must first take inventory before entering the loop. Make a habits scorecard by writing down what you do in a day and marking it with a plus, positive, equal sign, neutral, or negative next to each habit, depending on whether or not the habit is transforming you into the person you want to be. You are now ready to go. Time and location are the most powerful cues. You want to make positive habit cues visible while making negative behavior cues invisible. For example, perhaps you've noticed on your habit scorecard that if you're at the bar with a certain group of friends right after getting your paycheck, you tend to brag a little. You aspire to be the king of the bar, as Swedish musician Magnus Uggla puts it. Then you'll need to shake things up. If you change the time or location, you may have altered the cue sufficiently to prevent you from engaging in this financially destructive behavior. Make positive habits obvious, and there's a powerful method for doing so that James Clear refers to as habit stacking. After current habit, I will new habit, it goes. Because of your current habit, this frequently has both time and place built into it. You can learn about personal finance and investing with that cup of coffee you make at home in the morning by watching an episode of The Swedish Investor. Is it too self-serving? Then read The Damn Economist. The next step is craving, and you crave what you find appealing while avoiding what you find unappealing. As a result, you must make positive habits appealing and negative habits unappealing. This can be accomplished by simply changing your mindset about a few things. For example, instead of thinking, wow, this person must be so successful because otherwise he couldn't afford that car, think, wow, this person must be so successful because otherwise he couldn't afford that car. You might think, wow, this person is probably in a lot of debt right now because he spent that much money on a car. Splurging becomes less appealing in such circumstances. It could also mean that you combine a short-term reward with habits that will only benefit you in the long run. Warren Buffett has mastered this by making it more appealing to read annual reports of stock market companies. He gets an unlimited supply of Coke while reading. Okay, I made this up. But the man drinks a lot of Coke and reads a lot of annual reports. Finally, there is the response. You want it to be simple for good habits and difficult for bad ones. In his book, James Clear gives a ton of great examples of how to do this. And I believe the most powerful one that we can discuss in conjunction with financial habits is the lockout. If you have a habit of returning home from the mall with more than you expected, then start bringing only enough cash for the planned purchase, but no more. You can do similar things to lock in good habits, but there is another effective technique. This is to make each new habit a smaller version of itself. Working on your side business until midnight before getting up at 6 a.m. for work. After dinner, you spend 5 minutes doing something for your side business. Setting aside 40% of your monthly income for investments equals setting aside $100. The goal is to show up, get reps, and increase the likelihood of showing up by not committing. From the start, there was far too much. Most people would rather fantasize about running a marathon than lace up their running shoes. However, you must have faith in the snowball you are creating by starting small. Finally, positive habits should have satisfying rewards, whereas negative habits should have unsatisfactory ones. The streak is a surprisingly effective tool. It also works in the other direction. I despise breaking my streaks. Visuals are the key word here. Make a clear green check mark on every day that you, for example, did not end up with your hand in the cookie jar that is taking money out of your investment account for personal consumption. Make a big red cross if you did. But don't fail twice. If you can get these 4 right, you will be much more likely to stick with the habits you want and avoid the ones you don't. And there's something else you can do that might be even more effective. Takeaway #4. Establishing habits in the deepest layers. Outcomes, processes, and identity are the 3 layers of change. We've come to the conclusion that processes or systems are more effective than outcomes or goals. The most powerful habits, however, have their roots in the deepest layer, identity. Here's an illustration. I'm attempting to stop smoking. I don't smoke. Which do you believe is more powerful? I want to save $20,000, says another. I'm a business owner. It's one thing to say you want something, and quite another to say you are the person who has it. People despise contradicting themselves to such an extent that they can become completely blind to facts in order to maintain a certain identity or belief that they've developed over time. As a result, you must carefully select your identity and beliefs. Habits and identity are mutually exclusive. Consider yourself to have jars of various characteristics, some of which are contradictory. When you choose a specific action, you're voting for one of these characteristics. This makes some future actions more likely while making others less likely. As a result, we cannot discuss these issues in isolation. Habits and identity are in a constant state of reciprocity. Assume you want to strengthen your identity in a specific area. In that case, one of the most effective things you can do is join a community where many people share your beliefs. 5th takeaway. 80% exploit. 20% explore. Men desire novelty to such an extent that those who are doing well wish for a change as much as those who are doing poorly, Machiavelli said. Habits have a shortcoming. They bind you to a specific path. If you are dissatisfied with your current situation, chances are you need to push a little harder to change things up. Meanwhile, if you're happy where you are, don't change much. Just keep doing what works. However, as Machiavelli points out, even those who appear to be on the right track will eventually run into a roadblock. Boredom. Boredom is the enemy of habits that propel you forward. These habits, like that shirt you used to love that is now hanging in the back of your closet, will lose their luster sooner or later. It's still a nice shirt, but you need some variety. According to James Clear, there must be a balance here. If you're going to exploit or repeat what works 80% of the time, don't forget to explore for the remaining 20%. This is a great way to keep yourself from messing with the 80%. For an investor, it could look like this. Maybe you've been a successful index investor for a while, but you're tired of putting a certain percentage of your salary into the same old index funds every month. Then, with 20% of your capital, try your hand at individual stock picking. This does more than just alleviate boredom. It's also an opportunity for growth. Consider Google, a tremendously successful company with numerous successful products. Regardless, Google employees are encouraged to take 1 day per week, 20%, to explore and seek out whatever they find interesting. As a result, the company has created many great products, such as AdWords and Gmail. I believe a similar approach can help you and me become more explorative as well. Stack a ton of 1% improvements on top of each other, and you'll see remarkable results over time. When you have a proper system in place, the score takes care of itself. If you're having trouble sticking to a specific habit or system of habits, the answer lies somewhere in the cue, craving, response, and reward loop. Making behaviors a part of your identity means embedding them in the deepest layers of your being. Repeat what works 80% of the time and rejuvenate yourself the remaining 20% of the time. Following that, you might want to watch this video. The third takeaway contains 12 financial ideas that you should probably make a habit of. Guys, cheers!